For the best prices and service on Pokemon TCG singles and products, check out ccgcastle.com and use promo code Evolutionaries-5 for 5% off your next order.
What's up, Pokemon fans? I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and today we have for you another PSA submission video. Now, the thumbnail might have given away a couple of the cards, but we're going to go into detail exactly what we are submitting and what I'm expecting to get out of these. My predictions have been fairly decent so far. I've been wrong on a few things, but for the most part, I've been pretty close. So I feel like I'm becoming a pretty good judge of what these PSA cards can be. But as usual, we are submitting another 10 cards. We got some hollows, we got some ultra rares, and we got some pretty epic stuff as well. So without any further ado, let's start taking a look at what we have for this month's submission. So, for December, the first card that we're going to send here is an Armando Hollow. Now, this is in pretty good shape. I don't really see too much of an issue with it. I decided to start featuring these in just their clear sleeves because, obviously, I take them out a little bit. I look at them, make sure everything looks good on them, without putting my hands on them too much. Because the number one thing that I hear, everybody's like, oh no, he's getting them graded, but his hands are all over them. Well, it really doesn't affect the grade. As you guys can see, my returns so far have been really, really good. I've had 2 returns come back, 8 out of 14 were 10s, and not to mention my previous one were all 9s and 10s as well. So that really doesn't affect anything. Don't worry, guys. I know what I'm doing. But anyways, I'm putting them in clear sleeves just to put those uncomfortabilities to rest, so to speak. But here's our Armando Hollow. There's no scratches on the Hollow itself, so I'm really confident on this one that it's probably going to do well. The only thing that I have an issue with, which might bring it down into a 9 status, is this one corner right here. There's a corner nick. It could be factory, it might not be. That might bring this card down to a 9, whether I like it or not. And I think there's actually something up here, now that I'm looking at it. I think that's not in the sleeve. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a little dot up there. So this card's probably gonna get a 9. But that's okay, because it's a pretty neat hollow. It is from the E-Series era, so they are hard to come by, for sure. And I think there's going to be some value to it in the future. Armando is kind of an obscure Pokemon, and this card actually has something else that a lot of collectors go for. So you can see there, we've got a bit of a swirl in the hollow pattern there, which for some reason seems to do really well among collectors. I think it looks pretty cool, but apparently it does even more for collectors, so got that nice hollow swirl in there as well. So that's card number 1. Card number 2 is a Slowking Hollow. This one's a little bit older, 2005. This is past the E-Series era. This is a pretty cool looking card. I actually really like Slowking a lot as a Pokemon, and this is a nice hollow. I feel like it's in pretty decent shape. It might have one small issue. No, that's in the clear sleeve, so we're fine on that. I thought I saw something, but that's the thing about being in sleeves. That's why I take them out, and I'm always touching them. But this card's pretty nice. Pretty nice hollow on this one. And I don't think this card is going to get a 10, but I feel like it's a strong 9 candidate. It does have some very light edge wear across the card there, but I think it's definitely a strong 9 candidate. No worse than an 8, but I really think this is probably going to get a 9. So Slowking, pretty nice. Great looking card. That's the main thing. It just looks really nice. And I'm a huge fan of this particular hollow pattern. I think it really accentuates the cards and makes them look even better. So there's submission number 2. Number 3 is a base set Polywrath. So this card I think I actually got in a trade. I think I traded this with a Bit Oddish. I did a pretty good retro trade with a Bit Oddish at one point, and I think this was one of his cards. Just to say that we can grade a base set card in this day and age that's 18 years old is pretty darn cool. And this is a pretty strong candidate for a 9, maybe even a 10. It depends on how they grade that one little mark in that corner. It's hard to say. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to get a 9. But there's a chance. There's a small chance that we might get a 10. Given that I don't see any scratching on the hollow. I mean, I don't have a magnifying glass like what PSA really looks at stuff with. They're really, really picky about it. But I don't see anything else wrong with it. I think this is a good candidate for a 10. But I have confidence that it'll probably end up a 9. So that's card number 3. Card number 4, Kabutops from Fossil. One of my favorite Pokemon from Fossil is Kabutops. I just think it looks really cool. Fossil Pokemon, highly underrated. This card is another one that I think I traded for as well with a Bit Oddish. And there's really just nothing wrong with this. I think he pulled this card, actually, if I remember correctly. The only thing is the corners on the back. This is the only thing that seems to happen with these cards. There is some wear up here in this corner, and there's some wear down here in this corner. There's a tiny dot as well in the upper corner. So due to that, I really think, yeah, there's some edge wear there too. The back of the card always does me in. I think this is going to get an 8 or a 9. I don't know if it'll get a 9, but I think it'll definitely at least get an 8, which I'm fine with. I mean, 8 is still near mint. 7 is borderline near mint. That's like the bottom of the rung of the ladder. But I think it's got a good shot, at least an 8, maybe a 9. Next card we have here is a full art Magerna GX. This is from this is Japanese first edition, as you can see down there in that corner, first edition. Nice full art. I mean, I pulled it and it looks like a really nice card. I don't think this card is going to get any worse than a 10. I really don't. This is a very strong candidate for a 10. Japanese cards in general are very good for 10s, and I think that this is definitely going to be the next addition to that to make it a 10. But nice card. Definitely a good candidate for this submission. And I always like to submit a nice little variety of Japanese and English cards. More Japanese, we've got a Tapu Lele GX. Now again, I just think this is going to get a 10. I pulled this one as well, and it went straight into a sleeve. There's no corner issues. There's no edge issues. I definitely think we're looking at a couple of 10s here for these Japanese cards. And that's what I like to see, honestly. I don't really like to see anything worse than a 10, especially in Japanese, because they're usually really good candidates for 10s. We also have a Secret Rare VS Seeker in Japanese as well. First edition, just like Magerna over there. And I don't know if Tapu Lele... No, Tapu Lele isn't, because that's from a different set. That's from like an expansion set. Now, this card might get a 9. The only reason I say that, it's got one dot right there, and I think that's factory. Depends on how PSA sees it. If they see it as factory, maybe it'll get a 10, but if they don't see it as factory, then this card might get a 9, which, I mean, I don't really particularly like, but at the same time, it's still pretty decent. The only other concern with this card is that it is slightly miscut. This edge over here is a bit shorter than it is over here, so they might catch that, they might not. If they do, it might bring it down to a 9. Maybe, I don't know if it's enough to be a 9 OC. Let me look at the back. Did the back get miscut too? Yeah, the back is miscut too. So this might actually become an 8. But we're going to take a risk. We're going to see what Charlie over at Ludkins has to say about this, because they are going through... I'm going through Ludkins Collectibles again. If he does a pre-grade and says that this is going to get worse than a 9, then I won't submit it. That's what I really like about using Ludkins, is that he does a pre-grade service for you to use his expertise as someone in the grading business for a very long time. And he tells you like it is. Hey, I think this is going to get this. And if you ask him what he thinks, sometimes he'll even say, hey, I wouldn't submit if I was you. So he's honest about it too. Next up, Salamance EX. I believe this is from Power Keepers, I believe. Terrible with these old set names, but Salamance EX, I pulled this card as well. It does have a bit of warping, but usually PSA ignores that, with older cards especially. Really good chance here, I think, to get a 10. I don't think there was ever any issues on the front of this. On the back, no. Maybe that little tiny dot right there might bring it down into a 9 category, but strong 10 candidate. Definitely at least a 9, in my opinion. This is also another really good looking card. Salamence is a really cool Pokemon, and it's got that hollow pattern that I really like in it. Not to mention, I love the fact that in this era, the hollow patterns extended out onto the borders of the card really makes them look nice. So put that there. All right, next up, this actually was my card, and I just recently sold it to a friend of mine who actually lives here locally and a big Raichu fan, and I am submitting this for him. So when he paid me for this card, part of it was to submit it to PSA, so I'm going to submit it to PSA through Ludkins for him on his behalf. This Shining Raichu is not in the most fantastic shape. It does have a scratch on the tail, right there. It does have some edge issues on the back. As you can see, there's plenty of edge wear there on the back. Here on the bottom, here on the corners. Up at the top there's some, and over here as well. Now here's the thing. My PSA 7 Charizard looks worse than this. So, based off of that, I feel like PSA is going to give this card at least a 7. If they don't give it a 7, then they're going to give it an 8. But definitely no worse, I don't think, than a 7. based off of the Charizard that I got. Unless we get somebody who's really, really picky and gives it a 6. This is between a 6 and an 8, though. So I told him I would send it off for him. Raichu's his favorite Pokemon, so shout out to Steel Pants, who has been in our Twitch streams before. You guys may recognize that name, so that's going to go on his behalf. Shining Raichu. We're going to put that here because, ironically, the Pokemon that's sitting right here is our final submission. Gold Star Shiny Mew. That's actually kind of ironic that he'd happen to be right there. I didn't even plan for that. But yes, Gold Star Mew. I traded this card into PokeBault for a huge amount of old school cards that he needed to complete sets. And this card is actually pretty nice. It's in pretty good shape. I traded him some cards for that, and I think we actually added some cash in as well. But this was a while ago that we made this trade. So I've been holding on to this for a bit, trying to decide, do I want to send it, do I not? I think it's got a chance to get a 9, but it does have a corner issue there, and a corner issue there, and a little bit of a lip right there. So it might get pushed down to an 8, but it has a chance of getting a 9. So if it gets a 9, I will be thrilled. A PSA 9 Gold Star Mew is still pretty hard to come by, so I'd be very happy with that. But that is going to do it for this month's PSA submission for December. Dragon Frontiers, Mew Gold Star, the highlights of the submission. We will see what happens when we get everything back, which probably won't be until March-ish or so if things go well. So it might be a little bit before we find out, but we should have more submissions in the meantime. So make sure you guys look out for those. We've sent quite a bit off over the last few months or so. We did skip 1 month, but we got August back, and I think we sent out for October and November, and now December. I know we skipped one. It was either September or October we skipped. So we should have more results videos for you guys pretty soon. But in the meantime, this is what we're sending off to Ludkin's Collectibles for the PSA grading this time. Check out the link down below if you want to try out their service. Again, I've had nothing but fantastic results from them. From the very first submission that we got back in August, he handled my cards fantastically. Everything was well protected. Never got any worse than I expected. Everything was right where I figured it would be. 9s and 10s, and there was one that was like a random 6. But that was my own fault, really. I knew that card wasn't going to do that well. But definitely check him out. Well worth it. Amazing deals as well. Great guy. Highly recommend. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this PSA submission video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, comment down below, subscribe for more TCG content, and we will see you guys next month for another PSA submission video and plenty of other content in between. You guys take care. Have a great day.